I'm David Burkett, the convener of SNP Peterhead. It's been an exciting few weeks, isn't it? You know, we're often told that by continuing to fight for Scots independence that we are not respecting the will of the people in the first referendum, that we should just get over it and move on. There's just one problem with that argument, and it is that it is absolute rubbish. In previous instalments of our Why Not Scotland series, we've covered the democratic, historic and demographic arguments for NDRF2. Now, issue by issue, we are going to pick apart the rhetoric surrounding this debate. And how could we even begin to address that rhetoric without tackling the big one, that dreaded phrase, once in a generation? Now, this has become a bit of a millstone around our necks, and many in the Yes movement try to avoid it. But I'm going to tackle it head on. During a press conference in the run-up to the 2014 referendum, former First Minister Alex Salmond commented in reply to a journalist's question, words to the effect that the referendum was a once-in-a-generation opportunity. This phrase was then repeated by others in the movement. Now, I'm no mind reader, but even I understood that the remark was made in a nuanced comment based on the context of the time, that there was a referendum on Scots devolution in 1979 which was lost. There was a second referendum on Scots devolution in 1997 which was won. And that there was now going to be a Scots independence referendum in 2014. It's really not hard to figure out where the nuance and context of that statement came from. But if you really need it explained, then it is that you tend to get the opportunity to address these issues once in a generation. Alex has said as much himself since that day. Now, this soundbite has been used as a stick to beat us over the head with ever since. But Mr. Salmond is not the only politician fond of using a similar turn of phrase. In the run-up to the 2019 UK general election, both Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn referred to it as a once-in-a-lifetime general election. We all understood that the phrase was used in the context that it was the Brexit general election, and the chance to take part in an election with such massive constitutional consequence is generally a once-in-a-lifetime event. No reasonable person took these statements as meaning that there would be no further general elections after that point, because as we all know, that would be absurd. We all know that we are going to have another one. I was going to say in 2024, but the way things are going, it could be happening any time. But the unionist side of the independence debate are asking us to believe that nuance can only be applied to rhetorical comments made about UK politics or those made by unionist politicians. That context can only be applied to rhetorical comments made about UK politics or those made by unionist politicians. But the sole exception to this rule is when independence-oriented politicians make similar rhetorical comments about Scottish politics. Because when that happens, every word is to be taken literally and carved into stone. The Tory party is backed by a third of the UK's billionaires, and such wealth can purchase many, many things. It can purchase column inches, media friendliness, and ultimately influence. But what it can't purchase is the language we speak. What it can't purchase is linguistic concepts like nuance and context, because no one owns them and they are not for sale. The once-in-a-generation utterance wasn't a campaign promise or a binding commitment. It was a linguistic flourish. It was a soundbite. It was a snapshot in time. And when you see that, you'll also see that a Prime Minister who would ignore an international treaty he signed into law himself is bang out of line, even attempting to hold us to a higher standard over a rhetorical remark made by someone who's not even our leader anymore. And the attempt to make more of it than it ever was is just as absurd. And as if on cue, This absurdity was ably demonstrated by Conservative MPs as Boris Johnson's premiership imploded last week. As we all saw in June, Boris Johnson was supposed to be safe in his position for a year after he survived his earlier vote of no confidence. But we all saw what happened when a few Tory ministers changed their minds. Circumstances changed, loyalties were tested, minds were changed. Ultimately, a democratic decision mere weeks old was overturned. Even staunch unionist and alleged respecter of the will of the people, Andrew Bowie MP, thought that once circumstances changed in Downing Street, that he and his Conservative colleagues deserved a chance to change their minds after a mere 3 weeks. Now, many pointed out the hypocrisy of this situation and the hypocrisy of the mental and democratic gymnastics exercised by Andrew and his colleagues to change their minds. But just this once, we in SNP Peterhead agreed with them. Cheers.